traditional way to do it. And that's what the engineers, that's the original impact fee study, what they did. We've gone, the attorneys have advised us, and we agree, that that's not, we're a small town. We don't want to do that. We want to make the developer play banker. We can do the conduit, they can be the banker. So there's a different legal framework, and we want to do that instead. So that's kind of the update. But again, the money was already appropriated last year. The task is already set. The engineer's already told us it's already in scope. He's already laid it out. Basically, Kimley Horn's already, it always approved last year. It's already under the contract that I've already executed from last year. So
the question is, do we want to go forward and actually revise it? Which I think we should. I think
it's critical that we do that.
And I think the timing is good because we don't have any developers here. So it's, if we do it now, if a developer comes in and then we want to change it, then it's kind of changing the rule and stream. So right now it's kind of a very nice opportunity.
It should be fairly streamlined.
Yeah, actually it should be by the end of the year very easy because it's not a lot of work for the engineer and a couple public hearings.
Exactly, it's very quick.
Yeah, we need the CICA needs to meet so they can be part of the advisory.
Did Linda, have you talked to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee members? Did you?
I did. I gave them a heads up, and everybody indicated.
So I think, so the band's coming back together. Everybody's agreed. Yeah. So the band will be back. That's great. I appreciate everybody getting back together. Revisions should be fairly easy to make. Okay. So is everybody okay with? Again, we allocated the money last year, so there is actually no net funds change. It's money that was already allocated. It's just moving the money from this year to next year. It might be even this year. Anyway, everybody okay with us doing this?
So this is a consideration. We need to make a motion.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody kind of understand. We may spend the money before September. It might be next year. I'm not sure when we're actually going to finish this task.
Depends on what they're going to build to.
Yeah, so we're probably going to put it in next. I'm being conservative putting it in next year's number, but we've already approved it for this year. So, but, okay, I've talked too much. Can anybody make a motion that we do this? Any other questions?
A motion that we move forward to research and revise the impact fees.
Okay, so I have a motion to revise the impact fee study. A second?
Second.
Ed has a second. All those in favor? Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, so should I skip Clint again? All right, Clint, you're up. Go ahead.
So we've had a couple instances where some of the trades associated with house builds have been a little sloppy in their work and actually disposing of construction debris in the household drain. Usually it doesn't really show up until the homeowner moves in and then the water usage goes up. Unfortunately, the house already has a CO, the general contractor's long gone, so now really technically the homeowner is stuck with that bill to fix it. The town has been, I think, generous in the past, helping out a couple of homeowners and splitting the difference. But what I'm proposing here is we take more of a proactive approach that before we issue the CO, we actually perform a secondary inspection on the sewer tap, make sure there's no construction debris in there before a homeowner moves in. And if it is, then we at least still have something to hold a general contractor for. Little Home Services has provided a quote of $250 to do the camera fee. I propose that we just take that out of the sewer tap that we have and not raise the sewer tap any more than what it is. And then, of course, if we have to do a repair, then more likely the town will contract with Little Home Services likely and invoice the builder.
Yeah, we once had some guy went out there and opened up the manhole and he put 2x4s in there. He filled it full of 2x4s. Yeah. One guy put a bag of cement down his drain. Yeah, that may not care. Somebody put cement in the sewer line. So these things happen.
So all I've done here is actually on the form that we have is just put some language there so that when the general contractor signs it, but more likely he or she won't read it. We'll have a document in place that shows it. And this document is part of the Steve's pre-construction meeting.
Yes.
So it's not steepy or shady with them, but typically they're just quick to sign and move on.
I actually talked to the building inspector who is one from the colony. And he told me that in the colony, that's what they do. is that, but they require the builder to put a camera down the sewer line in front of the house, take pictures, take video, and they have to give that to the colony before they'll do the final inspection.
So that's what I was gonna say. Why don't we have the builder run the camera?
I think part of the problem with that is we don't know
So it's-
where that camera is coming from.
Right, so
We
but-
don't have any control over
And
that.
talking to the building inspector and the pre-work that we did, that was considered, but I went this way, well, we can go any other way, but I'm proposing this as just a chain of evidence. I mean, we trust the law
Kevin
officers.
does this, and I mean, when you run a camera, you have to show, here's the address, here's this, I mean, you're pretty much videotaping until you get down to the.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, I agree, there's different ways to do it.
I just.
Is it cheaper?
Well, just a question of, who do we make do it? Do we make them do it, and then we now are in possession of a video that we have to then archive and keep a hold of? I don't know.
Seems safer to use
I mean, my original,
third party. Seems safer to use an independent third party than the person that might have caused a problem.
That's the other side, right? The builder's in his best interest, this is really,
Then just have third party. Basically, the cost of making the video worth.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in long term, if it comes back, we can always reevaluate the sewer, or the sewer tap.
so, this is a shot. We're trying to solve a problem that it's not a frequent problem, but look, if we only have 3 houses a year, 2 of the 3 have this problem, it's a problem.
What's the sewer tap fee, for like 13?
$13.90? That was $13.90.
13.50.
Right.
And
250
water
doesn't
is
make up half of it.
12.75.
I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
not a sewer tap fee of $300 a
So Glenn, can you just elaborate on that? So in the very beginning, you said your suggestion was to have the fee part of that. And my question is, because obviously, it's not a bad idea. The question is, will this raise the cost to the homeowner? Or is this, can we absorb that in?
That's actually what I'm proposing, is that the
Totally absorb it?
homeowner still pays a sewer tap fee, we just erode our margin on it. The sewer tap like this, I want to say it's 13.50. I have to
Yeah,
go
it's in
look at
there.
it. So 13.50 minus 250, so we just eroded what we get.
So, and just in round dollars, I'm not gonna limit it, but what does it cost us to do it, and what do we bill out?
We bill out 13.
Or what does it cost us? Like, what's our margin?
I don't think I know, because right now,
I'm just saying, I'm sorry, yes, sorry. Cliff just said it's gonna roll a margin, I'm just kinda curious, do we make like $500, or $350?
I don't know, because the sewer taps are all in place, and it's a cost recovery, right? So the sewer tap was put in place in this case on Melanie, what, in the 90s?
Yeah.
And so now it's a cost recovery of, so that this is the case where the town put pays.
So that 250 is not gonna, when somebody builds a house, are they gonna have to have an incremental cost? You're saying no, or that's our goal, right?
There is transparency.
So, there's obviously 2 ways to do it. We chose the one where we eat it, we make it part of our fee versus doing that. It's fine. We can always come back and look at it later if it turns out, we can try it. See how it works. We never tried it. Let's see how it works. Okay. How do we handle that? So this is,
It's administrative, but usually we kind of, I mean, this is again, we're unique in that we don't have a building department that the council would never talk about like this, and why they're sitting. This is just.
normally a building department has they do their own paperwork. They can change forms anytime they want. They're administrative. We don't have that, so we've been approving the forms as a tradition.
Right, just
Even as a form,
checks and balances.
we've been approving forms. So, do I have a motion to approve the change in the form? To have this tap fee, this camera, that's the change.
Can I just make one suggestion? Can we just delay this 1 month and vote it in there, vote next month, just to make sure we, crystal clear on how we're gonna implement it? I get what you're saying, we're just gonna change the form, but I think,
How we implement it.
well, we've got the form on there, is it written in there?
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the change in here, what I'm looking for.
Well, the way it came out, I didn't mark it red. So if you read the language, oh, I'm not projecting, sorry.
No, Mark's.
I'm
he's
moving
got-
it right here and you guys aren't seeing it. So just-
Am I higher or lower? Am I?
Is it just
Sewer tap
It's that,
installation
it's that paragraph right there.
is to be inspected at rough plumbing. That's they do the first sewer inspection. And then the second, there's always an inspection at rough. And then the second one is at building final. So this is when the town of Lakewood Village, scheduling, camera, blah, 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 whatever it says.
So we're basically saying that part of what Summer's gonna do, she's gonna be part of the scheduling, we're not gonna make the building inspector do it. It's just, we're using the building final as a trigger to say, that's the last building inspection they do. So that's before the CO, this camera inspection is gonna be done.
So if the general thank you. If the general contractor is gonna be doing it, he's gonna build a homeowner, right?
No,
He's not even doing it.
We are.
We are.
The general contractor shall be financially responsible for any repair or cleanup.
Financially responsible.
If it is
for any repair or clean out. The inspection is not a.
I still don't- I still don't-
sewers or something.
I think, you know, guys, maybe I'm just a little bit, somebody's paying $250, I'm just trying to figure out where that's coming
The
from.
town is paying $250.
We're paying minimum services $250. And that's-
Yes,
So-
counting.
When the builder comes in for a permit to build the house, they pay for the building permit, they pay us $1,350 for a sewer tap, they pay us, I don't remember the number, is for the water tap, a meter set fee, and the water meter. And then at the building final, we pay Little Services $250, which is deducted from the $1,350 we collected up front.
That sounds like really good to me, I would just like to see that written out, and then that's all good. I think it makes perfect sense. Linda, do you have those numbers? Because if we do, we can just.
It's in the financials, it's not the financials,
Let's make a motion.
All right, look, I don't care, let's, you know, I don't know what do you want to change this verbiage? You want to
So that's what I'm saying is, we should just be sure we know what we're voting on, is all I'm saying, guys.
Does anybody have any uncertainty about what they're voting on? Let's, does anybody have a motion?
But we don't know the cost, or what's going to become. All I'm saying is just grid it out.
Okay, look, he's already told you 4 times, we're paying the loan service $250 for a fee that he already collected. Okay, do I have a motion to approve this, approve the change?
it's my proposal.
I'll make the motion to make the change that we just been talking about.
Okay, there's a motion to approve the change in the builder packet to require a camera in by Little Services.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Opposed? All right, next up, we have, Dan, you're up, a discussion of fireworks ordinance.
So, July 4th was, a week back, whatever it is. And we had besides all the fireworks that were going off, we had a large light up on the Facebook page. I didn't see all of it, I'm not on Facebook, but I've certainly heard a lot about it. And Jamie, you, right. So, unfortunately, guys, I wasn't here for most of this. I've been working late, so I did hear one where it was, 1 o'clock in the morning and things were still going off. So that was understandable. But we have a situation where it's more of a discussion about, right now it's pretty crystal clear. We have a ordinance that says there are no fireworks. It's pretty small, it's very nothing, right? And as far as communication is concerned, we put it on the front door, but everybody kind of knows, there's a little sign and all around and stuff. Question comes in is, from an enforcement standpoint, what are we going to do? Clearly people are upset, and I understand it. From a personal standpoint, I don't really have a problem with fireworks in general, 4th of July, New Year's, things like that. I don't really have a problem with it. But you gotta, what people are voicing an opinion about is when your windows are rattling at midnight, when the car alarms are going off at 11:30 at night because these things are going on, there's definitely a bit of a problem. Now, the problem that we have is that we're, for better or for worse, we're like for the community, and we've got the Army Corps of Engineers that owns that, they control it, okay? And we don't really enforce that part. So if somebody walks over to the Corps and starts doing small fireworks, sparklers, or big gloomy type ones, what happens is we don't really have the ability, even if we wanted to, we really can't control that. But where we stand today is that we have a lot of people that are complaining, and I'm gonna refer again to the Facebook because there was a lot of people that responded to that one. Sometimes you don't get many, but that one, there was quite a lot of interest. Well, I think we need to decide, do we want to rewrite our ordinance to have something that we can enforce? Do we want to get rid of it and say, hey, we can't do anything about it, so we're not going to have it? Or do we continue to have an ordinance that we're not going to enforce? And again, the problem that we have with an ordinance that we're not enforcing is that it becomes selective enforcement, and it causes some problems. So my open suggestion will be, maybe we need to take a look at the fireworks ordinance and say, is there some sort of middle ground where we say, these ones are okay, but these big booming ones are not? Or did the town of Lakewood Village want to say, no, we don't want fireworks at all, in which case we need to discuss how to enforce it.
Well, Johnny had something, she sent out an email to, I think all of the councilmen.
I did, and I had a one-on-one meeting with Clint earlier this week, and we openly discussed it, and we both agreed that there's a gap as far as there's an ordinance, and then there's you know, how do you enforce it, you know, in between.
Well, it sort of is difficult to enforce. I'll give you an example. Janie said, tapped me on the shoulder and said, look outside, there's a truck parked on the lot next to us. And she said, go out there and find out what's going on. I said, it's dark. I'm going to go out there and, with my gun or whatever and check. No way. Well, the sun comes up, the truck's out there. Now I can see. So I can walk out and I can look, and it was 2 kids parking or something like that. It was anything major, maybe to the parents. The issue is we don't have the mechanism to go out and enforce stuff. Now,
Clint
I
came
would
up
suggest,
with a practical point of view as far as there's typically 2 times a year that there's a problem with fireworks, and that's obviously 4th of July. This year it just seemed to be excessive. You know, it was yeah, it wasn't your black hats and your bottle rockets. It was full on spreads. Yeah, commercial grade stuff. And so New Year's and 4th of July seem to be the 2 times a year that it's happening. Clint had mentioned at one time, there was one point in time where Denton County was contracted to come out to patrol certain times during those.
Okay, so let me fill that gap.
But it is an option.
It's an option,
So,
yeah.
I don't know about the history.
So here's how it works. Okay, just so again, I'm just trying. Let me explain to you how it works here. So in Lakewood Village, we don't have a police department.
Right.
There's law enforcement and there's code enforcement. None of us are law enforcement officers. We cannot enforce laws. If you call Denton County, call the sheriff. The sheriff will not enforce city ordinances. They enforce state law.
That's consistent with what he said tonight.
They will not do it. So, in Denton County, in Denton County, fireworks are legal. They're not illegal. So if you call Denton County, the guys are shooting off fireworks, call the sheriff. They cannot do anything.
List the fire.
If you say, oh, and I'm in Lakewood Village, then they say, well, they're not going to write anybody any tickets. They may come out as a courtesy. Most times they're not going to come out because I live in Lakewood Village. Brrr, they can't enforce anything inside our city limits. Now, does that mean we can't do anything? No, that doesn't mean that. It means it's code enforcement, just like anything else in Lakewood Village. What that means is you file a complaint. Just like tall weeds and grass, you have to give us a complaint and say, this person did this at this time. Then we can run with it. Then we can do these things, okay? But you gotta have a name, it has to be an actionable complaint. That's how we do code enforcement in Lakewood Village. Well, one second. Now, if I get a complaint, because complaints come to me, that's my role as the mayor. Typically, if I get a complaint about a code enforcement, I ask Linda to call the person and say, treat them like a neighbor and tell them the problem. And 90% of the time, oh my gosh, I had no idea the dog was barking, I was out of town, or my neighbor and my brother came and parked his car in the backyard. There's some excuses like, that's great. When will it take care of tomorrow? Great. No harm, no foul, we move on. Very rare it's chronic. Then the next thing you get from us is a letter saying, now the clock is ticking, you've got X amount of days. If you don't get it fixed now, you come to court. But the next letter is you come to court. We always treat you like a neighbor first. Okay, now, but there's gotta be a complaint. If it ever goes to court, 90% of the time, I end up being the complainant. Because even when Eric is mad at Richard for what Richard's doing, Eric says, I don't want to be I don't want to get involved. He complains, and he fills out the form, and then I go and look at it. And then I let Eric off the hook, and I become the complainant. That's why I'm the one that typically is on all the forms. Because the neighbors don't want to be known as the neighbor. You don't want to poison, and I get it. That's why I take the heat. I'm the one that always takes the heat on the code enforcement. It's fine, that's why I have that name on the front plate. Now, fireworks. Dan, you brought up a good issue. There's an issue about fireworks. So here's what I think we ought to do. You brought it up. You think it's important. You've raised a lot of issues here. I think you ought to research it. Other cities, Little Elm issues permits. Other cities have designated areas.
Yes.
Some cities hire people to patrol on those days. There's lots of different options available. I think what I propose is that since you brought it up and you think it's important, that what you need to do is research those things, look at the different options, figure out what the costs are, look at the pros and the cons, and then come up with a recommendation. And bring that back, and then we'll go from there.
So you guys, my only question is, are you good with waiting until we get the budget passed next month too, come back in about 60 days? You good with that? I mean, the whole goal is to make sure we know what we're doing before New Year's. But you guys get 2 minutes?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Bernadette, yeah, yes.
Okay, so we filed a complaint on the 5th of July. You just should call them and they're gonna say, oh yeah, well, we're not gonna do that anymore. Until next year.
That's
But
what
then
it
you
is.
got
So what's the
that
complaint
complaint.
gonna
We
do?
don't know.
You gotta
I don't know. Right now, with all that stuff going on, I probably had a half dozen people, complain to me when I was cruising around my golf cart just chatting with people. Did we get a single complaint, an official complaint?
I didn't get a single.
Not a single one.
We
About
had the one from
specific-
Johnny via email, but
I'm sure.
But-
There was no specific, this
we didn't have-
address at this time.
Well, can't we make it a part of the neighborhood watch? To do
Well,
that, man up on July 4th and maybe the day
I
before, the
think-
day after?
I think you've got questions for Dan. I think
Yeah.
there's different, and I don't know the answer, but at the end of the day, what I want everybody to understand, I want everybody to make this crystal clear. You chose to live here. We don't have a police department. You knew that when you came in. So a lot of what we do, we try the best we can. But I'm not a law enforcement agent. I have no ability to go up and knock on your door and tell you, show me your pool that's green in the back. I demand to see your green pool. Or, we can't do that. We have no authority. We're not law enforcement. But I think you guys probably have lots of different ideas on how to handle it. That's great. Send them to Dan, and then we'll work it out. Because
Sheriff Nick?
I don't know what to do.
No, I think that's because I
Let's give it a shot.
and because I didn't, there's stuff to do. The thing is, that's happened every year for years and years since I've been here. Fireworks drop, and we hit them all over the lake.
And remember, no matter what you do, no matter how far you get, no matter what happens, you can take 2 feet and go on the core property, and now you're in Denton County.
Yeah.
If you go on the federal land, you're in Denton County. You can light off dynamite, and there's nothing Lakewood Village can do. You're not inside our city. You can go on the old dam, you can go across the street, you're in Denton County. There's nothing we can do about it. Yes, but anyway, okay. So Dan, I appreciate you taking that, running with that. All right, last up, we're going to bring the sheriff back and go another round. No, okay. All right, so we're going to go into executive session. We're going to come back out and make some MDD appointments. That's all we're going to do. We come back out, we're going to make MDD appointments. And then we're going to rock and roll. I am going to make a report about the, that's fine. All right, so
but we are going to consider an item after the
we are going to appoint the MDD board after this. That's the only agenda item we're going to do.
Mark, okay.
You already appointed, you're already in. This is for a different board.
Yeah, you can use the study.
All right, so we are now going to, in accordance with Texas Government Code 551, the town council recess executive session to discuss the following. 55107, consultation with attorney. I'm not going to do the attorney government body in Texas professional conduct. Clear points with the chapter regarding impact fees, 551087. Discuss and deliberate during commercial or financial information in the town of Lakewood Village. Or business prospect, the town seeks to have located, stay, expand, outreach territory. Lakewood Village and additional towns conduct economic development negotiations and delivery of financial bargaining incentives to business prospect. 55107, Texas Government Code, directing personnel matters, appointment to municipal development, municipal development district board.